Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is literally reshaping the internet right now, a massive, incredibly urgent challenge in the world of artificial intelligence and online safety. Over the last decade or so, the expanding influence of social media has completely rewired how we humans communicate. We're more plugged in than ever before, right? But with this totally unprecedented level of global chatter comes a downright astronomical amount of data, and naturally, a massive moderation headache to match. Seriously, just to put this into perspective, we're talking about over 3 billion monthly active users on Facebook alone. 3 billion. And that's not even counting platforms like YouTube and Instagram, which have billions of their own trailing right behind. Every single second, an unimaginable tidal wave of text, images, and video is being fired off, shared, and commented on all over the globe. It's a literal ocean of content. So, before we get completely lost in the academic shift from sociology over to computer science, here's our game plan for unpacking this massive blind spot in internet safety. We'll start with social media's toxic problem, then we'll define hate speech online. After that, we'll hit the language blind spot itself, check out how researchers are overcoming the resource gap, and finally, talk about building a safer global internet. All right, let's jump right into part one. Social media's toxic problem and the dark side of online anonymity. Okay, so the reality is, while these platforms give us this amazing freedom of speech, the anonymity they offer absolutely breeds toxicity. And the sheer amount of behind-the-scenes cleanup happening to combat this is just staggering. If you look at the data for hate speech content deletions on Meta platforms, so Facebook and Instagram, between 2020 and 2023, there are massive spikes reaching up to 30 million deletions in a single quarter. I mean, 30 million! The sheer volume of hate posts being taken down proves one thing for sure. Having human moderators manually monitor all this is mathematically impossible. We have to rely on automated AI detection techniques. But here's the catch. Even with those automated takedowns working overtime, the problem is absolutely still there. Global surveys across 16 countries show that everyday users are still running into shockingly high amounts of toxic stuff. In fact, nearly 60% of hate speech encountered on social media is experienced on Facebook, with TikTok and Twitter taking up significant chunks too. So, what does this all mean? It means our current automated safety nets are catching a lot, yeah, but they are still letting way too much slip through the cracks. Which brings us to part two, defining hate speech online. We've got to move from the abstract to the actionable. You see, to teach an artificial intelligence how to catch hate, you first have to give it a strict, neutral definition of what hate speech actually is. And honestly, that's surprisingly tough. Right now, international human rights law doesn't have one single perfect definition. But the UN Strategy and Plan of Action gives us a really solid baseline. They define it as any kind of communication, in speech, writing, or behavior, that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are. Notice how it specifically zeroes in on targeting protected characteristics, things like religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, or gender. And visually, the academic semantics here are kind of like a giant puzzle. Concepts like hate speech, cyberbullying, and abusive language, they all overlap, but they are distinctly different things. For example, a super rude comment might totally be labeled as abusive language, but it isn't automatically classified as hate speech unless it actively targets specific groups based on those protected characteristics we just mentioned. Recognizing and sorting out exactly what bucket a post falls into is a massive headache for the researchers trying to correctly annotate data for AI models. And that leads us straight into part three, the language blind spot. This is exactly where the AI safety net fails. Okay, here is the absolute core complication of this whole explainer. AI hate speech detection actually works pretty well, but mostly just if you happen to speak the right language. Because English dominates so much of the internet, pretty much all the early research, the benchmark data sets, and those natural language processing tools were built strictly for English speakers. Take YouTube, for instance. English completely dominates there at 66% of frequently used languages. Because of that, English has a mountain of public resources. It's what we call a high-resource language, meaning the AI detection tools built for it are highly evolved and robust. But watch what happens when the landscape shifts on other networks. On Facebook, English drops to 52%. That means nearly half the users on there are communicating in totally different languages: Spanish, Turkish, French, Indonesian, you name it. And as users increasingly utilize their native languages to chat online, it exposes a massive gaping gap in moderation. This creates a really stark divide in internet safety. On one side, you've got high-resource languages, like English, with abundant data sets and these powerful AI models ready to flag harmful content. But on the flip side, you have low-resource languages. Because there's sparse data, complex semantics, and just a lack of available online text to train the machines, these languages have historically been completely ignored. And that leaves non-English-speaking communities incredibly vulnerable to the rapid spread of unchecked hate speech. So, how do we fix this? That's part 4, overcoming the resource gap. It's all about engineering solutions for every dialect. To bridge this massive gap, computer scientists all over the world are practically working around the clock to compile brand new databases to teach AI the rest of the world's languages. We're seeing some vital, painstaking work here. They're building highly specific datasets from scratch, like gathering over 36,000 tweets just to teach AI the nuances of Turkish, or creating a Portuguese dataset specifically targeting sexism and racism, or categorizing 10,000 samples of hate and abusive speech in Bengali. Putting these together takes an immense amount of manual human effort to collect and accurately label the data. And to make matters even more complicated, hate speech has totally evolved beyond just simple text. Think about how we actually communicate online today. It's messy. So researchers are now having to build complex multimodal datasets. This basically means they are training the AI to spot hate when it's combined with images, hidden inside code mixed memes where two languages are blended together, and even within audio clips and slang. To crunch through all these new complex datasets, engineers are bringing out the big guns, some seriously powerful machine learning tools. We're seeing the use of advanced models like BERT, which are transformer networks that can actually read the context of a word based on the sentence it's in. Engineers are using tools like fast text to translate words into numerical data that the AI can read, and deep sequence modeling, like LSTM, to figure out incredibly complex grammatical rules and sentence structures across dozens of different dialects. These tools are literally the engine driving the next generation of global internet safety. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, a safer global internet and protecting the targets. Let's just bring this all back to the human element for a second to explain why this massive cross-lingual engineering effort actually matters. The crucial point is this: look at who is actually taking the hit. When we review the communities most frequently targeted by hate speech on social media, LGBT, ethnic, and religious groups are facing the highest percentage of attacks globally. If our AI safety tools only work in English, then these targeted communities in non-English-speaking regions are left completely undefended. They are entirely relying on these linguistic AI advancements to build an internet that is actually safe and equitable for everyone, no matter what language they speak. So here's the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves. As our online worlds just keep expanding, can AI truly ever learn to understand the subtle nuances, the slang, and the deep cultural context of human interaction in every single language on Earth? While computer scientists are definitely making some incredible leaps right now, bridging this language blind spot is for sure an ongoing battle. It really leaves us to ponder what the future of equity and internet safety looks like, and what else we absolutely need to do to protect the most vulnerable voices online. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.